Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 7 of season 4. I am Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And this is Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So Action, we'll talk about our rough week later. Push that off as long as possible. But did you have a nice weekend outside of our picks?
Yeah, it was a nice weekend. We just hung around the neighborhood a little bit and checked out some of the local bars and restaurants. And then Sunday was pretty much 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the couch watching football. So that was enjoyable too. The weather's been super nice here. I think you guys have probably had the same in Chicago. So it's been a mild start to the fall, which has been great. How about you?
Well, as I kind of cataloged, I had a coworker friend that came into town last weekend and had just an epic weekend. I mean, Friday night I went back to my old high school to watch, the old football team for a little bit. They blew a 10-point lead in 4 minutes, by the way. But that was a good luck charm. And then Saturday was just this epic thing. We went, they had the big volleyball tournament down in Hollywood, kind of the end of year tournament. I wasn't in it because of the whole flag football saga, which, like I said, mentioned the Shockers, no more. But yeah, I took my buddy Jonathan down there, and he met everybody. There was kind of some people dressed in costumes. It was just kind of festive, beautiful day. Got a couple drinks. We were there for a couple hours, and then we hit Four Shadows, which it's the official bar of the podcast here. But I've never been there for an Iowa game, and it was insane, bro. Oh my God, I have never been in that place where it's so crowded. Now, obviously, Four Shadows they have new kind of garage holder doors now instead of regular windows, so it was clear on the one end. But there was probably, I'm sure they were at capacity. I'm not trying to harm Rob's business, but it felt 150 people there. I'm not sure.
One below capacity, right?
Yeah, right. And we ended up getting to the bar, luckily, just kind of because a couple felt like they couldn't handle the COVID situation. So we're like, sure, we'll take your spots. The highlight, besides, if you watch the game action, Penn State was kind of waxing them actually until the spring quarterback got hurt, and then Iowa came back to win the game. They did not cover my mini in-game parlay, the 3-point spread and there was 2.5 and the under. So I didn't hit the under. I should have been the over. But they did come back to win the game. But at halftime, Rob and Matt, they do giveaways, shirts and hats and everything. And their little thing is, to get Iowa shit, you got to be wearing Iowa shit, which I didn't have it. So I gave away my raffle ticket. But the highlight was they give out these dog bowls. Okay. And apparently you get the dog bowl, you can get Coors Light for free out of the dog bowl. You just got to drink out of it. So that was kind of a thing. And they've got kind of these new screens now behind the bar where you can see like images of people drinking from the dog bowl or Iowa stuff. So they're really kicking ass over there. It was fun. And then we did a bar crawl at night with the volleyball crew. One of the guys had a party, and we hit a couple bars in Andersonville, my local neighborhood, and that was fun. So imagine me at 2 a.m. Drinking for 14 to 16 hours straight. I mean, at 4 a.m. my liver was angry with me. But we got up on Sunday and cheered on one of my friends who ran the Chicago Marathon. And then I finished up by watching the Bears win against the Raiders at Greg and MJ's on their beautiful deck, which they have you should get this action for your deck. They got this cool thing where this TV, it's like a console that's weatherproof. And then it kind of you can lift it up, and then there's a TV in it, and then it can be dropped down. So it's this kind of cool thing they found in California, really cool piece of furniture for them. And we were just sitting on the deck on a beautiful day watching the Bears game. So,
nice. You missed the Jets game, I take it, early in the morning on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. I didn't watch it. I know we were mad. We were texting about it. But yeah, so I missed that one. But I watched it, and I kind of stayed up for the Sunday night game. I was tired. But obviously that was a kind of a beatdown, actually. So, well, let's jump into it. I know there's a lot of social life talk there. Sorry, America, but here's what I'm doing, I'm sure. We've got the recap of week 4 for the NFL. kind of a flip this week action. I mean, the underdogs against the spread kind of got beaten down. I mean, they've been dominating. It flipped in my view. It was 6-9-1 according to my numbers. Now the road dogs did pretty well at 4-4, but and then the unders. We've been talking unders for weeks, and now it flipped over. So 6-10 with the unders this week. So the overs hit big time. But still, road teams are still right in the mix. They were 8-7-1, against the spread this week. So we'll talk about that a little bit going forward here. But any thoughts to what happened? It was a big favorite week.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that it was going to bounce back at some point and come back to the mean, and the favorites definitely performed well. And the scoring was a little bit surprising to me, especially in that Chargers and Browns game. I think you and I both thought that the defenses would perform better than they did, and that one got upwards of 90 points in the game. So that was surprising, and I don't really know what to make of the scoring. I think now that we're getting into the meat of the schedule, a lot of division matchups, you'll see that the totals are a little bit lower, and maybe that's where you see a little bit of more over money or over winners coming in because they're just going over lower numbers.
Right. I wonder too, and I know that these do adjust to action, but there seem to be a lot of injuries out there. I know that the Cleveland game, I wasn't aware that they had so many injuries on the defensive secondary, which they couldn't stop them. But it seems like maybe I'm kind of totally hypothesizing here, but there are a lot of injuries, but maybe people, because of the longer season, they're kind of taking more precautions, holding people out a little bit more readily than they would before. It just seems like there's way more injuries. I mean, at this stage, which of course they always happen in the NFL, but it's affecting defenses.
Yeah, you could be right about that. And like you said, they're holding them out. And maybe especially teams that are in the playoff hunt, they figure it's a longer season. We can use these guys at the end of the year.
Right. I did note, just kind of tracking this again, 4 of the 16 games did have the spread matter, where we had 4 winners that didn't cover the spread. It's a little more than we had. Maybe that'll be a trend. We'll see. I was kind of noting that still for the season it's very low. Maybe just pick the winner, right? But it did kind of hurt. There were a couple, for Survivor, we talked a little bit about Survivor last week. All these teams, Minnesota, New England, and Baltimore. I had the ultimate sweat with Baltimore. These teams probably should have lost, but did end up winning. But ergo didn't cover the spread, right? That was kind of wild. I know Green Bay, I think the closing spread might have been 2.5, but we had 3 in the contest, right? So
yeah, that's right.
Well, let's talk about the highs and lows. We've got highs. I'm just talking about Dallas. These guys are 5-0 against the spread, and we've been dogging Mike McCarthy for 2 years, but his team is playing really well. Now, obviously, they knocked out Daniel Jones. That really helped them because the game was closer, but Dallas is humming along.
Yeah, I mean, their offense was awesome. Again, the running game has been super strong behind Elliott and Tony Pollard, and Dak is obviously up to his normal self. So, I mean, they've been impressive, but I still kind of question their strength of schedule. Outside of Tampa Bay and the Chargers, really, the other 3 wins have been less than impressive opponents.
Right. Well, we'll see when they go to New England this week. I put the Bears on here originally because, obviously I watched the game and the 143 yards rushing and all that, but they did win 20-9. But now, this is the note for everybody. Obviously, Gruden is out. Everybody knows by now. John Gruden, with his emails and his potty mouth and his bad attitude, he resigned with the Raiders. So maybe that was a big distraction, which we can talk about later with the handicap and the Bronco game. But when I was watching the game, I was a little surprised that the Raiders were so out of sync and dropping balls, and the Bears just ran down their throats all game. So it's still a high for the Bears. They played great, but maybe there was an explanation.
Yeah, and even without David Montgomery, it should be added. They ran all over the Raiders. I don't know if that's more of an indictment on the Raiders' run defense than anything else. I mean, Fields, again, didn't really have like a big major stat line or anything. It sounds like, it appears that he's becoming more of a game manager, which is probably the right thing to do at this point in his career. And Nagy's not calling the plays anymore, too. So you're seeing a little bit of a different strategy from that side of the ball.
Yeah, Lazer's calling good plays, and at least if the games were tight, they got a shot. That's kind of the idea. We kind of mentioned the Chargers game, Browns-Chargers game, which was an incredible game. We came out on the wrong side here. I don't know if we really were. I mean, it was just such an epic game. Somebody had to win it. Herbert has been incredible. I mean, 398 yards passing this week, 4 touchdown passes. I think I've heard that he hasn't thrown an interception in 3 games, if that's correct. And he also ran for a touchdown. Final score 47-42. And I don't know if it's be the best game of the year, but man, that was entertaining.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. And the Chargers, again, magnificent on third and fourth down. 100%, 3 out of 3 on fourth down conversions, which ultimately swayed the tide in this one. And I mean, I got to give Staley credit for making these gutsy calls. He does it week in and week out. And so far, they have come up aces for him every time. And I'm just not so sure that it's going to continue. The percentage is incredible. I have it in my notes. We can talk about it later. But Herbert there's nothing more that you can say about him. I mean, he is playing as well or better than Patrick Mahomes right now in that division, and that's impressive.
Yeah, you'll talk about it maybe later, but yeah, 4th and 4 with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, down 27-13 at your own 24-yard line. I mean, the guy's got golden brass cojones here. I mean, I give him a lot of credit that he's hitting it, but to your point, it's almost like Frank Reich when he's, pushing it a little bit too far. We'll see if that backfires. But I guess, he has a really good sense. One of the things I heard discussed on VSiN was that Staley has a really good sense of when his defense can't stop anybody. And that's kind of the idea. Let's go for fourth down because we know we can't stop them. And in that game, it was kind of like that where on the other side, the Browns got conservative with the 1-point lead late and, did end up punting in their situation. But, we'll see. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns did run for 230 rushing yards against that Chargers defense, so they were cutting them up. I mean, that was a tough one to lose for us, definitely.
It was. Still, another high is Josh Allen and the Bills. I mean, it was a coming out party. I knew that they probably were going to come back and play better. Didn't think they were going to destroy the Chiefs in Kansas City, who now has lost 2 at home. 315 yards passing for Josh Allen, 59 yards rushing, 4 total TDs. He's definitely back in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's a favorite now, like plus 350 or $4 I saw when I was looking last. And they definitely put a statement up on Kansas City, even after the long hour, 20-minute delay around halftime. Right. I expected that would be a really bad scenario for the Bills, having to wait that long to get back into the field of play, but they opened the second half with that pick 6, and it was curtains after that.
Right. The last high is Lamar Jackson. I mean, this is the other guy who is playing at an incredible level. I mean, give him a lot of credit. I really like Jackson because he's a competitor. He doesn't care how he does it, running, passing, whatever. He had 4 total TDs. I'm sorry, he had, no, that's all right. We're reading the wrong line. 86% completion, 400 passing yards. I mean, the dude was just on fire. And now, granted, costly fumble at the 1, and that one should have been a touchdown for, because it should have been called back, right? It wasn't an illegal forward pass actually, but anyway, he made it happen. He obviously saved my bacon with my survivor pick.
Yeah, tough loss for my Colts, but Jackson was incredible. It really all of that came in the second half too. The Colts defense were playing really well in the first half, and it appeared they just kind of ran out of gas, but that completion percentage is off the charts. We talked about Lamar last week, and I told you about my futures bet for the Ravens, but I've got a new one today, and I will give credit to Mitch Moss because I heard him say it this week, but Jackson was 100 and still is 100-1 to lead the league in passing yards this season. And right now he's only about 280 yards behind the leader, Tom Brady. So I think there's an outside chance with him throwing the ball more frequently, teams loading up to stop the run, that he is going to continue this tear in the air.
He's going to have to do it again this week unless they decide, well, although the Chargers aren't good against the run, but we'll see how that goes against the Chargers. That'll be a big matchup. So here are the lows, the Dolphins' pass defense. Now, granted, Brady's been playing great, but, man, their defense is just, I don't know what happened to this team. They've fallen off the map. They give up 452 yards to Brady, 5 TDs. They got destroyed 45-17. I mean, we probably knew the Bucs were going to win, maybe even cover, but the Dolphins have just fallen off the map, dude.
Yeah, I got talked into myself taking Miami plus 10, and that didn't go very well. They just can't do anything on offense. They were in the game in the first half until late in the second quarter, but Antonio Brown and Godwin and Mike Evans were just mossing them left and right. and that was an ugly outcome for them.
Right. I know this is kind of a recurring theme in our podcast is the Washington defense, which we were big on early in the preseason. This pass defense is just completely garbage. I mean, Jameis Winston doesn't throw against anybody, and he had almost 300 yards, including a Hail Mary at the end of the half. He had 4 touchdown passes. Washington football team is just not getting it done. I mean, I'm not going to blame those emails for all that, but my goodness.
Yeah, it seems like there's some turmoil going on in the organization. It's hard to know if that's impacting the players on the field at all, but you saw the news that they're going to be retiring Sean Taylor's jersey this Sunday, and lots of folks in the media are speculating that it's kind of a ruse just to distract the media from what's really going on.
You're shitting the team all week. Absolutely. I've got Mason Crosby missing not 1, not 2, but 3 field goals and a PAT in this game. Now, we were watching this game because that's the one that was played here in Chicago before the Bears game. And, you know, we were on the Bengals, which I felt pretty good about. It was only push on the weekend. But Crosby, I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, he kept missing over and over again. Now, to Cincinnati also missed a incredible field goal, too. When the guy thought he made it, you see the end of that game.
Yeah.
Was in the overtime. He thought he made it. He's jumping up and down. They're like, nope, wide left. But dang, Mason Crosby might have the yips again.
Yeah, that was incredible. I think when they got in position to kick the game-winning field goal down at the end of the fourth quarter, I was like, what are the odds that he's going to miss again? And sure enough, he did. Gave us a chance in overtime, but we still couldn't get to the window after the Cincinnati Bengals missed a long field goal. So I kind of questioned that decision, though, to take the long field goal from Zach Taylor. Their offense was humming along, and they should have pressed towards the end zone there.
Right. The last one is Zach Wilson, who cost us another pick. He was really not good. 19 of 32 against the horrible Atlanta defense. And then down the stretch, we had a chance to get in the back door, and he makes this horrible play. I don't know what. Sometimes those rookies, they just gotta make a better decision.
Yeah, the big sack. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, it was like a 25-yard stack or something. I don't know what he's doing, running backwards.
Yeah, I really thought that after the big game against Tennessee that he would turn the corner against another crappy pass defense in Atlanta, but that didn't happen. And on the other side, though, I was impressed by Kyle Pitts. Finally, it only took Ridley and Gage not making the trip to him to actually throw the ball to Kyle Pitts, but he was awesome for the Falcons.
He was dominant. Hopefully that continues going forward. We've got some injuries to report here. Russell Wilson's the big one. We didn't talk about it last week. I guess we were on air. He hurts his finger, but it's a major injury. They had to do a total surgery, and he's out 4 to 8 weeks. I mean, that's gigantic for the Seahawks. We were down on him before. That's got to knock him down more.
Yeah. Ironically, Stafford also had a little thumb problem in the game that he worked out. And it was hilarious seeing all the memes going around on social media about the thumbless game and relaying it to Urban Meyer.
Daniel Jones gets hurt, concussed in that game against Dallas. Saquon Barkley has an ankle injury again. Some other ones that are bigger probably for long term is Juju Smith-Schuster's out the year with the shoulder injury. He got surgery. You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire who's out with an MCL sprain. He's on IR, so he's off for several weeks. And then these ones we'll see. Trey Lance sprained his knee. He didn't do us in the San Francisco-Arizona game, but they're on bye this week. And then Kyler Murray is more of a bigger one. He's got a shoulder injury. He did limited practice yesterday. You've noted Max Williams is out too, the tight end. But as we saw last year, that was more of a leg injury for Murray. But as Murray gets injured, that offense goes down. I mean, San Francisco played him tight for the most part. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners were right in that game. If it wasn't for the big stop on the fourth down on the goal line, I feel like that the Niners were going to cover that one. That would have tied the game in the first half, and they still held Arizona to 17 points, which was impressive.
It is. Well, let's go over the rankings here, the power ratings. For me, I'm just doing the WEGS index, the stuff that I've talked about last week. It is kind of basically, the teams that are playing better are on the top. You got Bills at 1, Cardinals and Cowboys, then Browns, and then Bucks and Chargers. So this is no surprise here. You don't see the Chiefs anywhere near here because of that defense. But the next two teams, just so you know, are the Broncos and Carolina. They're a little bit of a cut below these teams, so I left them off. You're still doing DVOA of priors, though. So the Bills, of course, are up there. You want to go through that list?
Yeah, actually, I think I failed to delete priors.
Oh, okay.
DVOA now is going through the first 5 games of only this season. So
Got it.
Bills are number 1 with Cowboys in second, then the Cardinals, very similar to your top 3,
Mhm.
and then Bucks are 4, Rams 5, and Browns are 6. So very similar to the Wegs index this week.
Yeah, just Chargers and Rams seem to be the only teams that are different. Probably, it's hard to say. I mean, the Rams defense isn't as good as kind of advertised, but, it depends on what metrics they are. Okay, well, let's go into the Lions action. I mean, we've got some big games this week. Maybe not as marquee as last week, but tonight's matchup isn't too bad. We'll glaze over it, but Tampa's going to Philly. Philly actually got the win against Carolina. That was an interesting one. We stayed away from it in our contest, but it's still, whatever. Didn't happen. So Tampa opened as a 6.5-point favorite on the road, 52.5-point total. In the contest, it's still 6.5. Markets has around 7 with the same total. I mean, I don't know about you. It's a tough one to read. I guess Philly's pass defense is really good, supposedly. They're surprisingly good this year, dropping a lot more in coverage, and Tampa's been tearing up the pass. But I don't know. What do you think? And the other thing, just for this handicap, I'm not betting this game action, but Brady's still like 0 for his last 7 covering in prime time, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he can't play after bedtime.
Exactly.
That's
Last
his
year.
problem. I heard this afternoon that he has a thumb injury as well on the throwing hand, which was news to me until I listened to a podcast late this afternoon. But I think that the 6.5 is tough, obviously, but I did take 7 with the Eagles.
Yeah.
I think that Jalen Hurts and those wide receivers are going to have a good night tonight against that weak secondary of the Bucks.
Right.
So I expect that this number will get very close to that total as long as Philadelphia scores with them. They should be able to get inside the touchdown.
Gotcha. Not a bad call. So here we go. It's what I previewed a couple weeks ago. I was all excited for this. Miami going to Jacksonville. Not Jacksonville. It's Jacksonville East in London. So Miami's going across the pond to play Jacksonville, who plays there every year. But Miami opened as a 2.5-point favorite, 43.5-point total. The total's up to 47, but the contest has 3.5. I'm not saying we got to advocate for the Jags for contest, but it's hard to bet on Miami anywhere. And the Jags, as bad as they've been, this is like a home game for them. So can you go any other side besides Jacksonville here?
Yeah, I mean, the London Jaguars, they're going to change their name soon.
Yeah.
But I am with you. When I saw the 3.5 come up in the contest line, I thought that was rather curious because I expected that it's going to be trending closer to 3 by kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
I did see that Tua is expected to start for the Dolphins.
He is.
And I also read that Devontae Parker is likely going to be out there on the field for the Dolphins. But the Tua news was very curious to me because I kind of expected, knowing that they have a bye next week after the trip, that they would just hold him out and wait for the bye and expect him to be even more healthier when he returns.
Right.
And so to me, it kind of looks like an act of desperation a little bit for the Dolphins after their 1-4 start.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that shows some weakness personally. And I think the Jaguars have been playing better, especially on offense the last couple of weeks. And I think that 3.5 is a big number for them.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before. Jacksonville is going to win a season, right? They're going to win at least a game. And I like this game. I think this is the game they win. They'll probably play Houston at home. That's another one. But I mean, Miami's definitely vulnerable. They do have to win if they have any semblance of playoff hopes. I don't think they do. But I might put a little money line on Jacksonville this week. But
yeah, I mean, we should think about it. The yards per Miami is dead last in yards per play differential. They're averaging negative 1.6 yards versus their opponent's yards on every single play, and that's just tough to overcome. Jags are also negative, but only negative 0.6. So
yeah, these are two. Again, we're carting out the NFL's finest in London. So, all right, let's go to the next one. And there you go. There's your ambulance action. I know you were waiting for that. Houston and is going to Indy as your squad. The Colts open as a 10-point favorite at home, 43-point total. It's really similar in the contest, 10 points. The total is 43.5 in the market. You know, the Colts have been playing better. They were talking about on VSiN a little bit that, Reich has turned the team around before in bad situations, and Wentz did play markedly better last week, even against Baltimore. So I don't like the 10. I don't think I can get on board with a 10-point favorite, but I do think the Colts might be playing better. They were kind of playing like crap for a couple of weeks. And Houston, they should have won. They should have beat the Patriots, but they didn't. They've got Dave Culley out there making bad decisions. So what do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really tough to look at the favorite here with such a large number in a division game, despite how bad the Texans have looked the last couple of weeks. Davis Mills actually played pretty well last week against the Patriots, over 300 yards passing, and they got the short passing game going a little bit. And on the other side, I think we saw just on Monday night how the Colts secondary is vulnerable. Their injuries are starting to pile up a little bit. Xavier Rhodes and Andrew Sendejo are in the concussion protocol, and they've also been without Rock Ya-Sin with an ankle injury. So I think that 10 is too many points in this game, and I personally like the Texans and would consider them adding them to our card.
Wow, look at this guy. Now, another couple things I would say is that 43.5 is a very low total for a 10-point spread, right? I mean, that's just they're just looking the Colts to dominate here. And it's something. Houston did get a win early in the season, but I think they kind of are trying to play hard. Maybe you're right. Let's put it at yellow. I don't know if I can get on board. I do think the Colts are like the trendy survivor pick this week. They're not the pure survivor pick, but I've heard everybody talk about it. Well, when are you going to pick the Colts again? But I'm not, by the way. I am not picking this game.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the epic loss by the Colts on Monday night will do to their psyche? Do you expect that they're going to get up now, or was that more of a demoralizing defeat?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's different than college kids. I think that they are. I don't think it'll bother them as much. They certainly blew the game, but they also blew it to Lamar Jackson. So I think probably are excited to get Houston this week after that game to get that taste out of their mouth. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a deterrent for them to win.
Okay.
All right, here's my beloved take on the Bears are hosting Green Bay on Sunday. 4.5-point favorites for Green Bay on the road. 46-point total in the opener. It's 4.5 in the contest and 44. This is going to be an interesting game action. Green Bay traditionally hasn't been stopped in the run. That's the MO on this team, and the Bears have been running the ball. But this is going to be a game that I think that he's going to have to pass the ball, right? I mean, at some point we're going to have to pass the ball to win. I'd be on the Packers here. I think it's a little light, even though in my metrics it's not light, which is kind of strange because I think Green Bay's playing pretty good. But, I mean, divisional game at home, 4.5, you'd usually say that, but the Packers typically own Bears.
Yeah, you could say that again. I'm sure 4 straight cover now for the Packers in this rivalry series. And, I mean, it is in Chicago, which I think gives them a little bit more of a play on their side. And, I really do like the fact that Laser has now started calling plays for the Bears.
He's better.
And like you mentioned, Green Bay's run defense is not good, 29th ranked in run defense DVOA. And the Bears are actually 12th in offensive running. I did see that, is it Damian? Yeah, Damian Williams got put on reserve COVID list today. So they're going to be out him and Montgomery. And it looks like Khalil Herbert is the next man up for the backfield.
He's good.
So
he's good.
Is he?
I love watching him. When I watched the game, every play, he ran hard. He actually was probably running better than Williams, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
He's more of a one-cut runner. And a little bit, I mean, he's young, a little bit of wiggle, but he I don't know about catching the ball. They didn't throw the ball to him, but he was running hard.
I mean, the big question mark on the other side, though, is whether or not the Bears will actually stop Davante Adams. No opponent has been able to do that this season, and he's been running wild. And I was looking for Hicks and Mack on the injury report, and of course, they're on it again. No practice yet this week. So that's another thing that we'll have to monitor. But I got to be honest, I probably lean to the Bears at this number.
Interesting. Okay, let's stay away from it.
All right.
Stay away then.
Fair.
I'd have been on the wrong side last week. I thought the Raiders would have taken them.
Yeah.
But, so.
We didn't factor in the email controversy, though.
Right. Okay, interesting game. Kansas City's going to Washington. These could be the two worst defenses in the NFL. Kansas City was favored as 5.5 on the road initially, and at 54-point total. Now it's 6.5 in the contest, 55.5 on the total. Both these teams, I mean, it should be a laser light show, right? It's not like these teams can't score. You'd think Kansas City's going to win, and they did cover their first game last week in a million years. I'm sorry, they lost last week. That was 2 weeks ago, my bad.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
But, Washington, this is a bad matchup for them, right? They can't stop the pass, and that's all the Chiefs do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You going to get on board with the Chiefs, or you going to go with the Washington football team again?
I definitely like the Chiefs at this number.
Yeah.
I'll say that right out of the gate. I mean, you touched on it. Kansas City is last in defense, and Washington is 28 right now.
Mm-hmm.
29th against the pass, though. And Mahomes, I think, this to me looks almost identical to the game 2 weeks ago when they were going into Philadelphia and laying, I think, the exact same number against the Eagles. And they gave up a lot of points to Jalen Hurts, sure, and obviously to Josh Allen last week. But I'm not so sure that Taylor Heineke and the Washington team are as capable as those two. Well, I guess the Eagles, I would probably put Washington over them. But I think that Kansas City is probably worth a look here to bounce back and win by the touchdown.
Right. Do you think it'll be a popular pick in the contest?
No.
Yeah.
Unlikely.
Backed off the Chiefs, especially after the big loss to Buffalo. People are probably backing off of them. All right, let's put it as a yellow. I mean, I'm on board with it because we obviously, whatever. We're not trying to go for broke. We're trying to get some picks, but I'm all for picking stuff that we can get right and nobody else picks them. Let's go to this next one. I'm really curious your thoughts on this. So Minnesota is going to Carolina. Carolina opened as a 1-point favorite at home and a 48-point total. That's flipped over to the Vikings side, and even saw at Rivers, it's at 2 right now for the Vikings, favored on the road, 46-point total. What's going on here? Carolina, I know that they haven't played that many great teams, and they obviously came off this loss here against the Eagles, but Minnesota hasn't been playing great. I don't really understand why they'd be favored on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly appears that there's been a large mountain of cash that has been coming in on the Vikings and moving this game through the zero. Looking at the bet splits now, it's only 54% of the tickets and 35% of the money. The numbers I'm looking at here, which is kind of curious to see why it went from Vikings +3 all the way to now Vikings -1.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Dalvin Cook is trending towards playing this week.
Sure.
I don't think that would have a huge effect on the number. I also read that Christian McCaffrey is practicing and looks like he's on the positive end of playing this week.
Right.
And, the Panthers have certainly dropped off since their hot start. The last 2 games have dropped both of them against the spread and straight up after their 3-0 start. But, I mean, the Vikings are 2-3 in their own right with ATS losses to Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Detroit, of all teams, as we know too well from last week. So I agree with you. I think that the move might be incorrect, but the potential for sharp money being on Minnesota scares me a little bit, much like it did last week in the Philadelphia game, and we saw how that ended. So
Yeah. So, but the sharps last week were on Carolina, or they were on Philadelphia?
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And for 3 quarters, it looked like the awful side, and they came back to win.
I know. They know something. They know that Sam Darnold, they got some pictures on Sam Darnold or something.
Yeah. Darnold has thrown a couple of interceptions the last 2 weeks, too. So it does appear that he is coming back to the mean a little bit.
Okay. Well, maybe it's a stay away spot. It looked hinky. I didn't understand the line. I don't think that the Vikings, I think they're close. Even if it was a pick, I might feel better. I just am like, at home, maybe Carolina has no home field advantage. So, but Minnesota's lost. They really kind of blew the game and barely won last week, and then they lost. Didn't score against the Browns. So I don't know.
I think one concern too, even though Carolina's still second ranked in DVOA, the pass defense I'm not sure is quite as good as their numbers suggest.
Okay.
And Cousins and Jefferson may be able to do some work against them.
Right. Okay. Let's go to the next game. We've got the Chargers going to Baltimore. Baltimore opens a 3-point favorite at home, 48-point total. Total's shot up to 51.5, and the Ravens are a 2.5-point favorite in the contest. Initially I was all over the Chargers. I still have it as a recommendation because I think they're the better team. The downside is it is kind of this classic West Coast team playing at the 1 o'clock window on the East Coast. So maybe that's factored into the spread. Is that what you're thinking?
No, I don't think so. I mean, are you suggesting that you thought that it would have been closer to a pick?
Yeah.
And all
I think
okay.
that the numbers suggest, look, Baltimore may be having this storied season. You're on board with them. They may be having this kind of, but they could be 1-4. I mean, this team is 4-1. They've pulled rabbits out of their hat multiple times now. They did lose on Monday night in the opener, lose blowing the lead, but I mean, crap. I mean, they really are living on the edge here. The Chargers are playing great, so I don't really know. I mean, there could be a letdown spot. Obviously, they had this mega game. And you're right. We talked about it actually at the top. Chargers aren't good against the run. So maybe it's like, hey,
Yeah.
Baltimore's going to pound them on the ground. But that's what Cleveland did, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Is Baltimore's
It's true. Yeah.
better? I don't. I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a short week for the Ravens. I think that is one issue, especially after such an emotional comeback where they had to score 2 8-pointers back to back to tie the game just to go into overtime.
Right.
And the week before that, they were in Denver in altitude. And then before that, they had the close loss or close win over the Lions with the 66-yard field goal and the Chiefs game. So, I mean, they've had a tumultuous season already in terms of these close games that surely have taken a lot out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if that really is that impactful week over week. I mean, the 80% of the bets are on the Chargers and only 40% of the money, and the line really hasn't moved at all. It's been pretty much stuck on this 2.5 all week. I did read that the Chargers have a couple of injuries on the O-line. Balaga, the right tackle, is out, and now they lost their right guard last Sunday against the Browns. So I don't know how that will impact them. Surely it'll give an edge to the rookie Owe on the defensive line to try to get some pressure on Herbert, perhaps. But the Ravens blitz a lot too, which I'm not sure that the Chargers have seen too much yet this season.
Right.
So I have a hard time wanting to back the Chargers in this spot. I touched on their 4th down conversions too, and I think that is certainly not going to continue. And eventually they're going to start missing out on some of those 4th downs, and it's going to cost the Chargers.
Okay. But would you lean the Ravens, or are you just staying away?
No, I do. I do lean the Ravens, actually. I think that I think the Chargers defense is likely going to stick to their normal game plan and allow the Ravens to run the ball, which could spell for disaster with Lamar and the running backs. Even if they do switch it up and try to get them to pass more, we've seen what Lamar has done the last couple of weeks. So I think this is a good spot for the Ravens. I do.
Okay. Different sides here. I think we'll stay away, unfortunately.
Okay.
You'll probably be right in the end. Sorry, Action, in advance. Let's go to Cincinnati going to Detroit. Cincinnati opened as a 3.5-point favorite on the road, 49-point total. Total's down to 47.5. Same line, 3.5 for the Bengals. I don't love the hook, of course, and Detroit's been kind of nasty at covering these little spreads, but I like the Bengals team. We talked about last week. They probably should have won the game. There was a lot of different things. They were right there, toe to toe, and I think they're a quality team. Now maybe they have a letdown after that big game last week, but I like the Bengals in this spot, even though it's a road, 3.5.
Yeah, I like the Bengals too. I think this is another team in Detroit that has really bad YPP numbers. They're a negative 1.4 on every single play, and I think the handicap really goes to that Detroit Lions secondary versus Burrow and the receivers. And I think that Cincinnati is going to have a lot of success through the air against Detroit. They have been feisty at home, you're right, but now we're looking at only having to win by 4 and not 9 or 10, which have been the recent spreads against Detroit.
That's right. All right, let's green it up. I think we're on the green side there. Yay.
You know that Burrow got a throat slash, right? He's been resting his voice all week.
Was that right? He got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on voice rest.
Oh, okay. Voice rest. Good. All right. So the next game is the Rams going to the Giants. Another, West Coast going to the East Coast on this one. Rams open as a 6.5 point favorite and a 50-point total without, the great Daniel Jones. Apparently it's 9.5 now for the Rams and 49-point total. I don't love the spot, but this is my survivor pick this week action. Like the Rams a lot. 10 points seems like a lot on the road, but I'm not sure. This is Glennon, right? Glennon's a quarterback now?
That's right, yeah.
He's a direct back there with that long-ass neck. I don't think I can get on the Rams, but I definitely, like the survivor.
Yeah, the one-way lean to me on the Rams. I heard that there was a rumor going around today that Daniel Jones might return for this, but I think that's far-fetched personally. And without Daniel Jones out there, I think that the Giants are going to be in trouble. I don't know about Saquon Barkley's status or the 2 wide receivers that have been missing recently too. So there's a lot of things that are stacking up against them. I did also see that Aaron Donald showed up on the injury report today, so that's something worth checking out. But if it's Donald against that line with Glennon in the backfield, I think that the Giants are in for a long day.
Yeah, me too. Okay, this one's the 4 o'clock hour. This is a little, more interesting matchups. You got Arizona going to Cleveland. Arizona is obviously on both of our ratings, where they're playing really well. We know about Kyler Murray's injury. Cleveland opened as a 3-point favorite at home, 53.5 point total. The total's down to 49.5, probably with the Murray news, but the spread is the same with 3 points. I'm on Cleveland here, and I'm like captain favorite this week, mainly because I think, the Browns are going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. And I know Arizona could hurt them through the air like, the Chargers did, but I don't know. If you're kind of looking at a Murray who's maybe not going to be running around as much because of that shoulder, I do think the defensive line will play better. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, Murray is certainly key for them, but they also, I forgot to write it up top. Their starting center is out now too, Hudson, along with Max Williams. And I did hear late today that there's reports of COVID that's going through the Arizona locker room. And DeAndre Hopkins was suspiciously missing from practice today. So
he has an illness.
Right.
It's not,
and
he's not vaccinated, so
I have a feeling that that news is going to break here soon, and this number being 3 could be a pretty popular pick. I mean, the other factor in this game that I hear on every single gambling news outlet that I read is that the weather is going to be super impactful. There's wind in the forecast, up to 15 to 20 mile per hour winds, which will have a significant benefit to the Browns because they played in 2 of these games last season, and they obviously are the running team and the Cardinals are the passing team.
Right.
So that's going to be impactful. And then, I mean, you mentioned it, the Cardinals are not good at stopping the run, and the Browns are one of the best running teams in the league. So I think that everything lines up for the Browns here, but I fear it's going to be a super popular pick.
It probably will be, but it's okay. We need to get a couple picks right.
All right. Fair assessment.
But yeah, let's go Cleveland. I think we can go green on that one, maybe, unless you change your mind there.
No, I'm in. I think, last thing, I think this number is going to crash through 3. In fact, it's already started and could be closer to 4 by kickoff on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, so this one's interesting. The aforementioned Raiders are going to Denver. Denver opens a 2.5 point favorite at home, 44-point total. That's gone up to 3.5, same total, which is a tough number. Getting that 3.5 is obviously a critical number. What's your take on the situation? I mean, there's 2 ways a team can react, right? They can crater, which is possible, or they can rise up and say, God, we got rid of this guy who not just last week was an issue, but everybody's now just bagging on the dude, on Gruden. that maybe they actually can play loose and free. I mean, they were playing loose and free for 3-4 weeks, but what's your take on this situation?
Yeah, I mean, typically you see in the coach fired or resigned, whatever it is, situation that a team in the very next game will rise up and play well, um, take a little bit of momentum into the next game. I'm not really sure that I fall into that camp most of the time, although I suspect that just based on their performance last week, that the Raiders are likely going to gel this week in the locker room and kind of get together. And I do think that they're certainly they have nowhere to go but up after last week.
Right.
So in terms of their energy and effort, and I do think that they'll get a little boost from it. I saw a lot of people coming out and laying the 3 points as it was earlier in the week as soon as the news broke. And now it's 3.5. So I think it makes it a little bit tougher. I would probably lean to the Raiders in this game at the current number. It could be a little contrarian as well.
It could be. I don't know if I can get on board with you. I know I'm getting a little skittish here with our bad performance last week. I don't disagree with your points. I think it's probably, I mean, at 2.5, this was a given, and obviously that's bet up. 3.5, road division dog, all those kind of things does play in their favor. The numbers really scream that you have to take the Raiders. I just don't know what to expect with these guys, so it's hard for me to get on board in the contest for that. Probably pick it in my, pick them, in my mini pool that we do.
I also don't know anything about the interim coach, Rich Bisaccia. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. It looks like he's been an assistant in the league for a long time. Any thoughts on the interim head coach?
People rave about the guy. I think he's supposed to be pretty good. I think he's supposed to be on the defensive side of the ball, if I'm not mistaken. So, they do play with energy on that side more. I'm not sure. And obviously, we're not even talking about Denver in this whole matchup. That's the funny thing. Like, Denver let us down, not us down, but we thought Denver, at least Teddy Two Gloves, right? He could do better on the road. I did, and he didn't cover. Teddy didn't cover a number. There you go. But he's coming home favorite. We'll see. It'll be an interesting game. I'd rather sit on the sideline for this to see what's up. It's my take.
I'm on board with that.
The last 4 o'clock spot, which this week is only 3 4 o'clock spots because we have byes this week. You've got Dallas going to New England. Dallas opened as a 1-point favorite on the road, 48-point total. The total's risen up to 51 now, and they're 3.5-point favorites. Is this when Dallas's ATS streak falters?
Yes.
Okay.
I really was hoping that the number would be higher than 3.5, but the Circa contest operators threw us a little curveball here, which I think is a sign, like we have seen in many weeks, of where they expect the right side to be in this game. And on paper, sure, it all looks like it's stacking up against the Patriots. You've got the hot offense with the dynamic running game coming into town and the league leader in interceptions and Diggs on the other side. But I think the total actually makes me a little bit curious because I would imagine that Belichick and McDaniels and company are going to try and slow this game down and make it more of a slogfest because I certainly don't want Mac Jones going back and throwing it 50 times to try and stay in this game and score with the Cowboys. So I'm curious by the total move up, to be honest. But outside of that, you've got Coach Belichick over Mike McCarthy, which I think is a serious mismatch.
Sure.
And anytime you say McCarthy, you could probably utter those words.
Right.
But the defense certainly did not play well last week against the Texans. But I think it's still a good defense. They've put up some good performances against opponents this year, especially the Bucs on Sunday night. Granted, it was a rainstorm. But I think they're going to stay in this game, and I think it's going to be close.
Interesting. I'm totally against you here, buddy. I don't – it's not because of McCarthy. I know McCarthy sucks. But, going back to my kind of gut thing, who's going to win the game, Dallas going to win this game. Are they going to lose? It's possible.
Maybe.
It's certainly possible. But with that low spread, you got to – I don't see a path for New England winning unless there's turnovers. I just kind of see that, maybe they'll play close to the vest And to your point, then we should definitely be betting the under here.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a correlated situation. You take New England plus the points and you do the under, and there you go. But you think the opponents for Dallas has been weak. That's why you think they're playing so well?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, outside of the Chargers and the Bucks, I mean, both
Mm-hmm.
obviously good opponents. Their other wins have come against Carolina and the Giants
Philly.
and Philly, right? And Damian Harris is going to be back. I think New England is going to run on them a little bit. At least I
Mhm.
expect that will be the game plan. And I I don't know. I just think the time for Dallas's ATS run to come to an end is near.
You think that Belichick's got get up for this? He didn't get up for Dave Culley apparently last week. His team sucked last week, but this week,
It
yes,
was definitely a letdown spot after the Sunday nighter against the Bucks too. I mean, you could argue that they probably should have won that game if they would have made the field goal at the end.
yeah, they should have won the game. They played well enough
So
to win. Okay, maybe you can talk me into it. It's hard for me. I just don't. Dallas. You know, the Dallas survives on turnovers, right? So if Jones doesn't turn the ball over, he's good. But he has turned the ball over sometimes, right?
true.
And I don't think Dallas is as good a defense as the Saints when they play good. Caveat. But they've been playing pretty well. So we'll see. We'll see. I'd like to stay away for the moment. Maybe you could talk me into it on
That's
Saturday.
fair. That's fair. I think we've got some other picks. We don't necessarily have to walk ourselves into it. I mean,
Right.
Dallas on prime time again. It's going to be on TV, so
Oh yeah. It'll be the signature game on that
I,
afternoon.
I think the Cowboys, regardless of this week's outcome, I think they're going to continue to be overvalued in the market because they're
Yeah.
always in that 4 p.m. time slot, and the
Yeah.
nation watches them dominate, and they think, wow, the Cowboys are great, and then the numbers go up.
Yep. You're right. Not wrong there. Not wrong. Well, let's take the two primetime games. You've got Seattle and Pittsburgh. This was going to be a lot better game with Russell in the game for Sunday night. Seattle opened as a 2.5 point favorite, 48 point total, and then obviously that's on the road. That's flipped all the way to 5. Woo! 5 for the Steelers, favorite at home, and the totals crashed to 42.5. I know what Action's going to say. Way too big of a line move for a player,
Yeah.
but we are talking about Russell Wilson here. Geno Smith, the ghost of Geno Smith is out there against the Steelers defense, which, I mean, they did perform better last week against Teddy Two Gloves. I don't love 5 points. I'll tell you that right now, but I don't see Pittsburgh losing this game either. So I don't think it should have moved 7.5 points, but
Mhm.
if you
Yeah,
take,
it was 8.5 for a minute. I saw sixes that came up in the market.
really,
Now my screen is not loading. Let me try this one. I mean, obviously 5 in the contest though, so another number where you've seen the operators shade a little bit to where they think they expect it to land.
right,
I'm gonna wait until Sunday Night Football and I see more and more money coming in on the Steelers. I'm definitely gonna be betting on the Seahawks, but I could understand your hesitation. It is Geno Smith. He played well though when he came in at the end of the game last week. One big drive to keep them in it. He had
yep,
131 passing yards, 10 out of 17 completions, and the defense was okay. I mean, that has always been their Achilles heel, but I don't think that the Steelers all of a sudden have found this great offense. I mean,
right,
Juju's out, and really their only remaining receivers are Johnson and Claypool. And Big Ben is not miraculously going to become this awesome quarterback now.
right.
And the Steelers have historically really sucked laying big numbers, especially recently. And I'm not sure that this team is equipped to win a game by 6 points, even with Geno Smith playing quarterback.
Right. They did last week.
True. What was the final? Did they cover 6? I thought it was,
They
well, I
covered.
guess the Broncos were driving, and then they got stopped at the end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're right. It was 27-19.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping for the back door on that one too, but it
Yeah,
didn't happen.
likewise.
Um, but yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, will the Steelers turn it around? I mean, I dog Tomlin. I think he's a garbage, especially in-game coach, but he does motivate. This is Sunday Night Football. You're right. This is the classic spot where the Steelers just throw in a dud. They're all on the Steelers, and they just crap themselves.
Yeah. I was looking
Um,
at their defensive numbers, 19th in DVOA overall, 6th against the run, but only 24th against the pass.
this
So, I
is the
mean, the Steelers
yeah.
defense. Yeah. So, I mean, if Geno can play reasonably well and Metcalf plays, I did see that he was a DMP in practice yesterday.
Mhm.
So, something to watch. But I think the Seahawks offensive receivers are going to be able to score on them a little bit.
Okay. All right. I'm telling you, I am Captain Conservative over here this week.
That's all right.
Uh,
It's Sunday Night Football too. We've been
yeah,
pretty good at staying away from them. So
right. Even though we should have gone with the Bills last week, whatever.
yeah,
All right.
true.
So last game, Monday Night Football, the Bills, America's team now. The Bills Mafia go to Tennessee, and they're going to hit Nashville hard. Tennessee is, they actually open as a 3.5 point dog at home, 53.5 point total. Now to a 6 point dog at home, 54.5 point total. This is tough. Buffalo obviously, sorry to use the term, shot their wad out last week. They just played an incredible game. I just see as a letdown spot here. And I know that Tennessee's defense, especially pass defense, sucks.
Yeah.
But, I just kind of see like Tennessee getting up for this game, and 6 points seems like a lot in this one. All the numbers point to Buffalo, but I'd be on the Titans. This would be a dog situation for me, action, but
Mm.
not sure what your take is.
No, you're right. I mean, the Tennessee is really the only side to look at in this game. I just think it's tough because it screams letdown spot coming off the huge win against Kansas City, their nemesis that they've been trying to beat the last couple of seasons. Was it Tennessee who beat down the Bills last year on like a Tuesday night, a random Tuesday or Wednesday game, I
Yeah,
think?
that's
So I
right.
mean, they have revenge too on their minds.
Sure.
Um, I would honestly feel better about passing on this game, but I mean, we can talk about Tennessee a little more. The Buffalo defense is number one DVOA against the pass and the run, which
Right.
is surprising looking at these numbers. And certainly you would expect that the Titans are going to try and pound Derrick Henry against them.
Oh yeah, no
But
question.
I fear that Josh Allen is capable of putting up 40 points against the Titans defense too.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, we can pass. I'll tell you, we're not on the same page here this week. It's fine.
It's
It's
okay.
great. Talk. Um,
It's only Thursday.
well, I know, but it's one of these weeks I'm like squeamish. I'm like, this will be the week we go 5-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's review some of the candidates. It looks like we're not going to take that one, so I'll take that one off the board. Cincinnati at Detroit, we're on one board on that one together. We are on board with Cleveland at home, 2.5 together. We've got Houston plus 10, possibly against the Colts. We talked about the Chiefs minus 6.5. We've got a couple other games that we're considering in Jacksonville. I know it's crazy. We're getting 3.5 in their other home in London. And then we mentioned the Chiefs, right? And then we've got the Rams at 9.5. That's a big number. And then Seattle, I guess we'll consider at 5 points and getting 5 points on the road with the great Geno Smith at the helm.
Yeah. I think the only one is Cleveland is 3 in the contest. Not quite as good of a number, but still, I think that's still a slam dunk in terms of a pick for us, right?
Right. I agree. All right, let's review the contest. Obviously last week we sucked, America. I'm sorry we're letting you down. America's sweetheart, entry is now we're 12-12-1, right at 500. We went 0-4-1 last week. It was a pretty bad outing there. Just a lot of bad beats. We're down to 2330th, I guess. I don't know how you say it, 2,330th. So we need to bounce back. The top guy is kicking ass. I mean, 22-3. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
And to crack the top 50, we'd have to be at 19-6. So, we're basically 6.5 back now. But we can make up ground. The quarter's probably blown, but who knows? At some point, these guys at the top will start faltering. I heard the guy who's on top is actually both first and third.
Wow.
Yeah,
Impressive.
the guy's getting it done. So, actually, let's do it, man.
5 weeks in the quarter, so we got an extra
That's
couple
true.
of games there to pick from. last week was so tough because I still believe that one flip of the coin in every one of those games, well, save for the Jets, we could have covered, So it was just a tough way to go 0-4-1. Even the Bengals in the push game could have covered. So we'll bounce back, and we're gonna win some of those coin flips going down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, come on, let's face it. I mean, like I said, Cleveland was right there. There was some stretches where like, we got this, and it just faltered us. But that's all right. That's why we do this. All right. Well, have a great weekend, Action. We'll talk on Saturday to try to narrow this down and get more clarity for our loyal listeners. I know you're waiting with bated breath about this podcast, and I'm talking about Luke again. He's bugging me today. Where's the podcast? I'm like, we taped it. Jesus.
Put it in your calendar, bro.
Exactly. Come on, man. It's only 7:05 Central right now. It's Thursday. Give me a break. Anyway, well, thank you for following us. Thank you for listening. Follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right, everybody. Well, good luck, and we'll bounce back for you, America.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.